Parts of our country are already very poor. Leave Martha's Vineyard sometime and you'll discover that. America could be on the brink of getting much poorer. This is the last thing we need. And it was preventable, very easily preventable. The United States government holds tremendous sway over the Mexican economy. So with a single phone call, Joe Biden could have made absolutely certain that the Mexican government sent these migrants back to where they came from. But Joe Biden has not called to do that. And he hasn't because he wants these migrants here in the United States, and so they are coming. He did this on purpose. Thousands of Haitians, as you just saw, have swarmed Del Rio, Texas, which is not a big town. As of this morning, there were close to 7,000 so-called family units under the bridge there. More than 300 of those units included a pregnant woman. All of these migrants, says the Biden administration, will be allowed to stay in the United States, no questions asked, and the children born here will, of course, instantly become American citizens. None of these people, you should know this because it's telling, will undergo any kind of background check, like the background check you endure if you were to try to, say, buy a 12 gauge, according to your constitutional rights. None of them either will be forced to abide by vaccine mandates. So you need the shot to work as a nurse or for the sanitation department or anywhere. But you don't need a shot to come into our country illegally at the request of the Biden administration. Virtually none of these migrants will ever be deported. Of the more than 3,000 illegals processed in Del Rio on Sunday, only 327 were supposedly deported to Haiti, all of them single men and women. We haven't, by the way, confirmed that. That's just the claim. But even the official claim tells us that more than 90% of these Haitians got effective amnesty immediately. They got on government buses to resettle into what was, until recently, your country. On Monday, Haitians on one of those buses revolted and took control of the vehicle. They did break out of the bus and they did escape, one official told the Washington Examiner. Do things seem out of control? Well, that's because they are. Just a few hours ago, the head of DHS, the man in charge of Homeland Security, explained to the United States Congress that, in fact, he has no idea how many foreign nationals are being resettled in American neighborhoods. And he didn't seem bothered to admit that. Watch.
How many people have been returned? How many people are being detained? How many people have been dispersed to all points around America?
Senator, I would be pleased to provide you with that data.
I want them now. Why don't you have that information now?
Senator, I do not have that data.
Why not?
For me.
Why don't you have that basic information?
Senator, I want to be accurate.
Because he doesn't care. That's why he doesn't have the information, because he doesn't care, because there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing Ron Johnson, despite his best and noble efforts, can do about it. So how could you defend this if you believed in, let's say, law? How would you defend what's happening? Well, you couldn't. There's no way to defend it. These are illegal aliens. They're not refugees. They are breaking the law with the help of the federal government. How is that okay? Well, no one in the Democratic Party bothers to explain how it's okay. Instead, they deflect. They denounce anyone who asks and calls that person a, can you guess? Can you guess what they call people who ask questions? Here's Ilhan Omar to remind you.
What we have seen was cruel, inhumane, and a violation of domestic laws and international laws. We owe Haitians the right thing of allowing them to seek asylum here. When it comes to our immigration policy, for so many years, cruelty has been very much embedded in it. There is obviously systematic racism at play here.
Oh, yeah. So it's systematic racism to point out lawbreaking by foreign nationals, says the lady who married her own brother in order to scam American immigration law. Now somehow Ilhan Omar is a, quote, lawmaker, and she's calling you a racist if you don't like the fact that as a lawmaker, she is openly subverting the laws of the country that rescued her from a refugee camp in Kenya. Right. That's the new America. And it's not just Ilhan Omar who's saying it. Here's the top Democrat in the United States Senate.
Images of Haitian migrants being hit with whips and other forms of physical violence is completely unacceptable. Right now, I'm told there are 4 flights scheduled to deport these asylum seekers back to a country that cannot receive them. Such a decision defies common sense. It also defies common decency. So I urge President Biden and Secretary Mayorkas to immediately put a stop to these expulsions.
These people are such liars, especially that guy. So here you have Chuck Schumer claiming that there are, quote, images of Haitian migrants being hit with whips. Well, that's a distressing claim. Really, where are these images? We checked and we couldn't find a single picture like that. Instead, we saw Border Patrol officers using their reins to control their horses. Horses have reins. Reins are not whips. Though if you live in DuPont Circle, it's possible you wouldn't know the difference.
We saw that image of at least one Border Patrol agent using a whip and was effectively trying to lasso some of the migrants.
I was not aware that whips, which come from the slavery era, were part of the package that we issue to any sort of law enforcement or government-sanctioned personnel.
Disturbing new video and images taken at the U.S.-Mexico border that appear to show law enforcement officers on horseback using aggressive tactics to confront migrants.
What they're seeing is despicable, disgusting, cruel. Those are the words that I've been hearing from activists that I've been talking to.
As an image, to me, it does smack of a bygone era of slavery.
To me, who's never read a book in my life, it smacks of a bygone era. It is slavery to ride a horse through a crowd of people trying to invade our country. That guy went to Yale Law School, in case you're wondering if the system is legitimate. Answer, no. Chris Cuomo really gets the credit he deserves for being the single dumbest person ever to perform on cable news. He makes Don Lemon look like a particle physicist. But the Biden administration is nothing if not attentive to CNN. They write the script. So here's the DHS secretary once again accusing his own officers of, quote, weaponizing their horses.
One cannot weaponize a horse to aggressively attack a child. That is unacceptable. That is not what our policies and our training require. Please understand, let me be quite clear. That is not acceptable.
So there's one of the country's top law enforcement officers explaining to the former Morning Zoo girl from AM radio in Yakima, Washington, that he's offended by the idea of enforcing the law because laws are racist. But they're only racist when they're applied to foreigners who are likely to support the left's program. So waiting under the bridge in Del Rio tonight is the Democratic Party's future electoral majority. That's what it really is, and that's why they're protected, so they can do whatever they want. But how about you? You're an American. You were born here. You remember a free and egalitarian America, a country where the same laws applied to everyone, no matter what color they were. What about you? Are you allowed this latitude? No. You're merely in the way. Keep your nose clean, Mr. American citizen. Don your obedience mask, get your shot, pay your taxes, and shut up. You are yesterday's constituency. Nobody cares what you think. That is the message.